Hey guys, Rob Boehner, Creative Director at LiveX and host of Ready Take Live. I'm sitting here at NAB Show 2018 for another Wowza Studio Sessions with Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, Editor-in-Chief and VP of Streaming Media Magazine, streamingmedia.com. For those of you who don't know, I don't know where you've been living for these past couple of years, but streaming media is the premier destination for industry professionals seeking industry news on that kind of live at the intersection of broadcast and streaming. And he's also very heavily involved with Streaming Media West as well as Streaming Media East that's coming up in New York. And I've had the privilege of getting to know Eric a lot more recently in preparing for that conference, as Corey Banke at LiveX and myself are handling a lot of coordination for the live streaming summit. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, before we get into all the great stuff coming up, let's talk a little bit about what we've been seeing here from a streaming perspective at NAB and what kind of new innovative products are coming out, one being the Wowza Clearcaster. How do you feel about the Wowza Clearcaster, Eric, for Facebook Live?
I think it's great, and thanks to you, Rob, and thanks to Wowza for having me here. I mean, an appliance like the Clearcaster just takes doing Facebook Live to the next level, right? And makes it that much more efficient and effective in doing a live broadcast on Facebook. I mean, anyone, and the great thing about Facebook Live, right, is that anyone can get on Facebook Live and just shoot something on their phone.
Right.
But when you want to do a professional quality live stream on Facebook, something like Clearcaster is really, it's a great thing to have in the market.
Yeah, it's been getting a lot of buzz. We're using it right now. You're watching us on Facebook, courtesy of the Clearcaster encoder. And let's step back a minute now that we got that out of the way and talk a little bit more about streaming media, because I actually have been a huge fan of streaming media for many years. I've read both the print and online publication well before meeting you or Tim or any of the rest of them over at Streaming Media. And tell me a little bit about how it started. I believe it started in '99, and what gap it felt it needed to fill in the world of streaming and broadcast.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we started in 1999 as a website and magazine and trade show, Streaming Media East and West. Huge shows. I mean, this was the .com bubble, right? So you had
Sure.
broadcast.com. You had Bill Gates keynoting at one of our events, and one of the great stories about Bill Gates at our event is that he actually got the blue screen of death during his keynote.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we don't have video of it, unfortunately. But so, you know, we've been in the market and covering streaming media almost as long as streaming media has existed, right?
Sure, yeah.
And we continue with that today. The print magazine, there was a little gap in there when the print magazine didn't publish, but it's been running up and running again since 2006. And, you know, really what we try to do is bring the technology side and the creative and the content side together to bridge that gap a little bit, so that we can help creatives better understand how the technology can help them do their jobs better.
Sure, yeah.
And also help the folks on the technology side keep what they're doing in perspective, that really ultimately it all has to serve the content and it all has to serve the creation.
Yeah, you know, I'd never really thought about it that way, but you really do fit the middle ground to sort of coordinate between what we need in the field, people like LiveX, and what manufacturers and vendors are doing. You know, one of the things that I really love about streaming media is all the testing that you and your journalists go through when a new product comes out, a new solution, not even a product or solution, but a protocol, some sort of new transport method. And talk to me a little bit about some of the like encoding testing and things that you guys do that we really benefit from.
Well, Jan Ozer is who's with a company called StreamingLearningCenter.com, and he's been writing for us for as long as I've been with the magazine and the website. Jan Ozer does a lot of testing. As anyone who's walked around NAB this year knows, there's a lot of talk about AV1,
Right.
new codec that was just released, HEVC, which has been out for a few years. You know, is there another codec war coming? Well, that's not an easy question to answer, but by doing some testing, by showing how these things can work in the real world, hopefully we can make people make the right decisions for their business model, because it really does always have to come back to that, though. You know, if you think back to the Betamax versus VH1.
Sure, yeah.
The best technology didn't win out, but there were other factors at play that led to the adoption of VH1 instead of Betamax. Business factors will come into play when it comes to which codec or codecs tend to see the most adoption.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, we have seen, surprisingly, in addition to sort of the streaming codecs of the H.265, HEVC, AV1 sort of battle that's going on right now, one of the big announcements here at NAB was ProRes RAW, which I know a lot of people are excited from a capture standpoint. I don't know how that really will incorporate into our workflows, but, there is certainly, everyone thought ProRes was going to disappear altogether, and even in the live streaming space, we use ProRes as an intermediate codec for playing out things on air constantly, and with the evolution of ProRes, I think it is here to stay, and we'll still have to wait and see on HEVC, AV1 to see what happens, but there's a lot of different methods being used with these codecs that I think are really valuable. Most notably, we had a SRT panel discussion earlier, and SRT, for those of you who don't know, is a way to transport video with very minimal latency, and it is kind of the evolution of the WebRTC transport protocol, and it is a completely open source and really fastly growing. I know you've done a lot of coverage at Streaming Media of SRT. Give me your thoughts and kind of your breakdown on where we are right now with SRT.
Well, I think where we are right now is that people are understanding that the latency is incredibly important to some types of content, right? Obviously,
Sure.
Live content, live sports. It's not as important for the kind of thing you and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want as little latency as possible, but again, that's a combination of a technology decision and a business decision. And so having something like SRT out in the marketplace that, as you said, is open source, means that we've now got a potential alternative to RTMP, which is still in some ways the best way to achieve low latency. But as we know, with Flash being deprecated, we're going to have to change, and SRT really shows a lot of promise.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about it. We've done some testing with some of the products that we have, and I was surprised to learn that there was over 100 vendors now working with in the SRT Alliance and producing products to support that. Yep. What kind of adoption have you seen?
To be honest with you, I haven't seen a lot of adoption in the field, but I think the fact that, as you said, that so many companies are getting involved in this alliance means that it's likely to have legs. And I think we're likely to start seeing that adoption in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's good to always have like an eye on the future. We would love to use it all the time, but unfortunately we can't yet because not all the legacy devices work with it.
Right.
And even some of the players and things, like we can't really deliver it all the time in the way that we want to. But so in addition to that, there's another hot button issue in streaming right now of delivering everything at the same time to multiple devices, right?
Right.
So it does you no good if you get your stream there faster than television if you were working for the network.
Right.
And the network doesn't want people's second screen experience ruining the on-air experience, and somebody texting their friend like, "Oh, I just saw this play. Did you see a touchdown or whatever?"
Well, someone even commented today that if you're a sports fan, you'll sometimes have a game on in multiple rooms of your house, right? Mm-hmm. But Brian Ring, who has spoken at our shows, had a great comment today. He said, "Look, there's nothing I hate more than hearing the goal from Xfinity in my living room while I'm folding laundry in the bedroom and watching it on my Roku."
Yeah.
So you don't want it to create. There are problems that need to be solved, but I also think it's good to take a step back and ask yourself, really, how significant? I mean, everyone loves that story, but how significant is that a problem for the majority of consumers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nuisance more than anything.
Right.
It's not a real problem. It's not a real issue, but it's certainly something that I know a lot of people are trying to figure out right now, and how they can match screens, different delivery to different devices to be like more frame accurate. It's a lot of buzzwords right now. A lot of people say they have some cool solutions to do that, but it certainly isn't widespread, and I haven't seen it work in my own real life yet. You know, like a lot of things that we hear about, especially here at NAB, is like something that we're like, oh my gosh, that exists. Like, I can't believe we can do that now. But will it ever impact me, you know, in the real world?
Right. And of course, the irony with some of those solutions, if you're talking about matching the latency between different streams, that usually involves slowing some streams down rather than speeding others up, right?
Yes.
Because there's a baseline that you're never going to.
And let's face it, you know, typically we have to slow down streaming, online streaming, to match television delivery.
Right.
Television is usually behind now. It used to not be that way.
Right.
But you know, ever since we developed, you know, got platforms that have, you know, 15 seconds of delay or 10 seconds for the round trip time, you know, it's certainly a lot quicker than a lot of networks can deliver. And then it gets even worse when that has to be repackaged and things have to be repackaged and restreamed on like the network's app or the network's like I'm a DirecTV Now subscriber, have been since the beginning, and you know, I'll notice that it's faster online than on my DirecTV Now, and you know, I can get in trouble with some of that, with, you know, spoiling things for my friends and things and whatever. But yeah, so in addition to you know, SRT and the AV1 HEVC saga that will continue to play out, you know, another thing that we're always on the hunt for here at NAB is innovative bonding solutions. Internet is always a problem. I saw one cool thing from Castle Case Technologies of just like internet in a box, where it has it has its own power supply, it has all its bonding solution built in, and you can service up to 500 users on its Wi-Fi router. Like, it's really kind of crazy.
Well, and we're seeing the first, I mean, I think Mobile Viewpoint introduced the first 5G bonding solution here. Now, obviously, it's going to be a while before that has any real impact, as we're still waiting for 5G to get rolled out.
Yeah, I mean, streaming media is popular around the world, and you know, certainly here in the United States, we're blessed with a lot of really high quality internet infrastructure and things like that. But I'm sure that a lot of your users are interested in bonding, and we are from a live event standpoint, where we'll step into a conference venue or something like that, and they'll want to charge $10,000 for 10 megabits per second. And you know, if we can bring a bonded solution that, you know, we can save the client, you know, $8,000 to bring that or whatever, then that's a big deal. You know, from your reader standpoint, and also from your writers at streaming media, you know, how important is bonding in the dynamic of the streaming beat?
It's crucial, I think. It's crucial for you know, a certain element of our readership. You know, we within streamingmedia.com, we've got Streaming Media Producer, which really, those are the readers who really are using cellular bonding on a daily basis, maybe not daily, but on a really frequent basis. And for on the production side of things, it's an absolute lifesaver, because sometimes you do run, and you know, even for those of us who are dealing with high connectivity all the time, it's sometimes easy to forget that even within the U.S., there are large areas where people are not getting decent connectivity to the home as consumers as well, right?
Absolutely, consumer side especially.
So it's really important, as we're sort of blinded by all of this new cutting-edge technology. So much of it is predicated on things that are not as widespread as we sometimes might think in our own little bubbles.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I always try to tell like vendors that we work with, manufacturers that we work with, is to kind of fall in love with our problems rather than your own solution.
Yes.
You know, I think that that's a quote that like I heard from the head of Intuit a long time ago when I did a conference with him, and it always stuck with me.
Right.
Because that really needs to be kept at the forefront of development in all these streaming products. Because otherwise, they're going to develop something that is really cool, but nobody can use it.
Right.
And we see a lot of that out there. But yeah, so sometimes, so there's people like me and the folks at LiveX who are avid readers of and watchers of streaming media, and we're in the live events, live broadcasts, streaming space, weekly, daily shows, things like that. But there's also this other element to streaming media that is kind of how I explain it, how I think I would explain it to people. You are kind of like if Variety had a tech blog.
Sure. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you also cover Hollywood,
Yep.
big network television stuff, and
Right.
and also like regional news networks and things, and what they're doing to make
Yep.
the transition off the dial and onto connected TV apps and other apps like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think if I can go ahead and talk about the Streaming Media East that's coming up
Yeah.
in a few weeks, it's May 7th, 8th, and 9th. And if you just look at the how broad the coverage is, we've got the live streaming summit, which is one component of the event. And as you said earlier, you've been programming that.
Yes,
and the program
yes.
looks great.
It does look great. We're really excited about it. We've got a bunch of great panels, live linear OTT, digital experiences, the future of live streaming, all sorts of great panels. So check that out for sure.
At the same time, we've got in the part of the regular Streaming Media East program, we have panels that are focusing on enterprise and education streaming. We've got many discussions about OTT, and if you look at our keynoters, we've got Facebook Live, we've got Google, and we've got Netflix keynoting.
It's incredible.
So,
yeah.
and we really do span the gamut. And then within that, this year we've for the first time really made it clear to our attendees that, okay, this track is the business and strategy track.
Yes.
This track is the tech and how-to track. We've got a day dedicated to video marketing that's put on by Troy Dreyer, who edits our sister site, onlinevideo.net. And then we've got another day that we're dedicating just to AI and machine learning. We sort of wanted to say to ourselves and our attendees, let's embrace one of these cutting-edge topics and spend the whole day focusing on it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think I'm really excited about the event.
I am too. Yeah, and I know in that AI machine learning, I think Chris Michaels from Wowza here is giving a talk on how blockchain technology is being used for media.
Yep.
When he told me that, I was like, I'm sold. Like, get me in. I want to know what you're talking about, what you're doing. I mean,
And the nice thing is we like to think that we're one of the few events that cover the entire range of the uses of online video. I mean, there's not a lot about enterprise and education happening here at NAB, for instance. And obviously, we don't have the scope of NAB.
Sure,
but,
sure. You're not trying to be NAB.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And, the nice thing about our event is you can say, okay, I'm interested in the business side of things. I'm going to stick with the business track. Or someone like you who does live streaming, but you're also interested in blockchain, you can bounce around and sort of mix and match and make the show that's best for you.
It's really great, and I know a lot of people make the trek to Streaming Media West, but Streaming Media East this year, I'm going to say it, I'm going to go on record, we're going to be bigger and better in New York City, May 8th and 9th, is it May 8th? Yeah, May 8th and 9th at the Midtown Hilton in Midtown Manhattan, and it's going to be amazing. Like,
that's the plan.
Facebook is doing a keynote on creating community with Facebook Live,
Netflix is, Chris Fettner from Netflix is bringing an entire panel with him. Some people from Netflix, some people like a cinematographer for Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, film studios to really talk about the entire ecosystem and all the things, all the components that go into making a great experience, everything from the video stream itself to the cover art thumbnails. It's all part of what you need to be thinking about if you're going to offer a compelling user experience.
Yeah, and many more. Hulu, Amazon Web Services, a lot of big players. I mean, it's not just streaming companies anymore. I mean, these are big networks and big players in programming our daily lives and culture. So really excited for Streaming Media East. You guys should check that out. I think that's all the time we have today.
All right.
But
Well, thanks again for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate you coming on, Eric. For Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, really appreciate it. Streaming Media, go to streamingmedia.com, check that out. I'm Rob Boehner with LiveX, and this has been another Wowza Studio Sessions at NAB Show 2018. Stick around because we'll be right back at the top of the next hour, and then our final show will be at 5 p.m. where we'll be recapping day 2 of NAB. So take care, guys.